Guy Leitch is the editor at SA Flyer magazine. Guy, good morning to you. I do appreciate the time. There's a lot going on here, many elements to this, but it seems to me, from what I can see, that the airline seems to be playing sort of hardball with the pilots, and they're responding in the same way.
I think you're 100% correct, Stephen. Hi. Yeah, it's interesting. I think that your previous speaker, Mr. Cornell, was 100% correct when he talked about just there's a lack of trust. And that's what we're seeing. I mean, there was on face value, a fair proposal put out by the airline in response to the 3 days of negotiations that we had last week. But they just don't trust it. They say there are too many gaps. There hasn't been enough consultation on rules to close those gaps, and therefore they're going to stay out in the strike. Now, I think that the important thing that we need to keep sight of here is just how effective is the strike going to be. So we have two very different stories now emerging as to what exactly is going to happen this week. The airline says that they are going to be able to fully operate their reduced schedule. The reduced schedule is 70% of their normal schedule, and they say they've got 66% of their pilots available to do that. That flies in the face of Solidarity's claim, or that over 90% of the pilots, of the Solidarity pilots, voted in favor of the strike, which would have meant that there would have been a pilot availability of about 40%. So it's going to be very interesting to see whether Solidarity, the airline, Flysafair, is able to keep its schedule going this week, as it currently says it can.
I mean, this is often the case in these things. If you can provide the service while the strike is underway and you're management, you're kind of win. If you can't, well, the pilots kind of win. But in a case like this, it's quite rare, it would seem, to have, how do I describe this? People who earn an upper middle class income going on strike for as long. And from what I'm trying to say is the pilots must really feel their cause. I mean, pilots that I know love flying. Half of them would fly for free if you'd let them. So they must really feel their cause very strongly.
That is absolutely correct, because the reality is that this is not a recent problem that suddenly bubbled up. This has been a problem with Flysafair basically since its inception. Flysafair is a classic low-cost carrier, which means it tries to keep its own costs as far as possible. And now finally we've seen this, in a sense, an immovable object meeting an irresistible object meeting an immovable post, in the sense that the pilots who have a lot of power are saying thus far and no further in terms of our contribution to what appears to be the excessive profitability of the airline. And yet the airline is saying that we're not going to bend on this one, because to accommodate the pilots at this stage will cost us many, many more millions further on. The current estimate of giving the pilots and the increase, or just the 5% increase that they've asked for, is over 25 million rand. That will obviously continue to increase. So I think Flysafair is simply taking a reduction in revenue and is going to hold out for as long as they can.
It's an interesting claim. I mean, I don't know what an excessive profit is. I mean, I think I know some people who I suggest are profiting from certain things, but in our circumstance, as a South African airline market, and we all saw what happened during the pandemic, the management at Flysafair were able to keep it flying during the pandemic. They were able to sort of, when restrictions ended, their pilots had enough hours to immediately get back in the air. All of those things really came to matter. Are they making too much money? Is that a strange question to ask?
No, it's an entirely valid question to ask, because there have been a number of reports which no one has gainsaid about the amount of money that's been exported by Flysafair to their, it must be mentioned, illegal majority offshore ownership. And the figure of 1.2 billion rand has been quoted as having been exported as dividends to ASL, the Irish leasing company that owns Flysafair. And indeed, we've also seen claims that the two senior executives, the CEO and the CFO, have sold 90 million rands worth of shares. Again, an indication that the airline is probably making super profits. And this ties in with reality, because, with COVID, we saw the failure or the loss of Kalula, we saw the loss of Mango, we saw the enormous cutback on SAA. So Flysafair has pretty much had the low-cost market to itself. And again, has probably been able to set prices rather than have to take prices.
Is there any way to sort of foresee what's going to happen over the next few days? I think you're right, it must be a test of strength between the pilots and the airline. Flysafair has always sort of advertised their punctuality. If that gets damaged, their reputation gets damaged through all of this, you'll have pilots, some of them on strike, some of them not, having to work together afterwards. That could be complicated and difficult as well. I wonder if this is a strike that could really sort of shake Flysafair in different ways for some time to come.
Well, currently the hot news is that Emirates is arriving in South Africa. Emirates airline is arriving in South Africa in the next week or so to recruit as much as 550 pilots, which is almost twice as many pilots Flysafair has. And Emirates is a popular destination for South African pilots. It's almost on the same time zone. It makes it easy to travel to and from work from Johannesburg. So Flysafair really does run a huge risk of losing its best and most skilled and most senior pilots in this regard. And I think that this is the long-term danger that the airline faces, that it's going to be increasingly short of skilled senior pilots.
Dr. Guy Leitch, thank you very much indeed. Really appreciate the time. The editor of SA Flyer magazine, a story we're watching this week.